Hey everyone, it's Alex here, and today I'm going to be talking about making progress as a music producer when you have no time. In my life, I'm very busy most of the time. I have a full-time job. I'm a dad with 2 kids. I'm now running a fledgling YouTube channel, and I also teach music production. And I find sometimes that I'm just carried along by my schedule from one appointment to the next. I have very little time to make music, and it seems like it's only getting less. I'm only having less time to actually get anything done. And over the years, I've kind of battled with this. And if you've been making music for any length of time, you've got a full-time job, you've got family commitments, whatever, you're in education, then you will find that the time you have to indulge in music is not as much as you'd like it to be. And I just wanted to discuss some of the things that I've kind of noticed over the years that have helped me and really helped me kind of make big progress, and things that I still employ all the time. They're just habitual now. But perhaps you're earlier on in your career as a music producer, and you're finding that your schedule is just stopping you from actually making any progress. So I've kind of got a list of things. The first things that came to mind when I decided I wanted to make a video about this, things that have tips and tricks, if you like, and strategies for beating not having enough time to make music. So the first thing I wrote down was be mobile. My thought here was that when my daughter was first born, I found that I literally had no time. Music production had to take the back seat for a while, and that's fine. There'll be periods in your life where you do just have to let go of it and realize you're going to be able to, you might only get the odd day here and there if you're lucky. These periods never last, and before you know it, you have a bit more time again to kind of indulge your creativity. The only time I found was I'd drop my daughter off at nursery, and I'd have a bit of time before the working day started. I might commute in for my day job and find that I had 45 minutes until the office opened, or half an hour, 25 minutes. I would take myself to the nearest Weatherspoons, and that's a pub chain in the UK. I'd go there because there was no music playing, and because it was 99p for a limitless refill coffee. And I would take my laptop and I would just spend that time making tunes. And if the commute went well, unfortunately I don't live too far from where I work. If the commute went well, I'd often have a fair bit of time to make progress. It wasn't hours, but it was enough time that I could sketch tunes, I could work on existing tracks. The be mobile point is that I just relied on my laptop at that point, a pair of earbuds, and that was kind of the sole production setup for everything. It's great if you have a dedicated space, but sometimes you could be a bit tied in to only working there. I'd always suggest, if you're struggling with time, make your setup such that it is mobile and you can just take it wherever you're going, because this will apply as well as if you do have time and perhaps you're going away somewhere, you're away for the weekend, and you're going to have a bit of time to make music, but you can't because all your gear's at home. You can just take your laptop, have a mobile setup, have everything such that you can just do it on the move. And that really helped in that incredibly busy time where I only got kind of brief morning sessions. And this leads on to the next point, which is about reducing friction, keeping your guitar out of the case, I've written. By that, I mean always have things ready to go. So if you do have a space at home where you can create music and you've got everything set up, have the gear turned on, have things ready to go. So if you've got a session coming up, you can just literally jump into it. This was the same with the being mobile setup. I'd have Ableton open, I'd have a new project file ready, often with my template set at that time. Just have it such that things are always ready to go, and you can literally grab your laptop, grab your gear, and you can get going with ideas straight away. Fill in the gaps in your day. By this, I mean that you might find, if you're really stuck for time, you're going to get stolen moments here and there. Get used to, if you can, kind of micro sessions, making tunes. You're going to have 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there. You can easily kind of get an idea for the start of a track down in 10 minutes, if not 5 minutes, if you're really quick. It's a great way to kind of build up sketches to work with, just working really quickly and batching up sketches. But if you're working on existing tunes, you can also do quite a lot in 5 to 10 minutes if you're really, really clear about what you're going to do in the session. So you might have made some notes on the track you're working on, listening back to it after a session. You might have a list of points of things you want to go through. Chances are you can achieve one of those things in 10 minutes, if not 5. Filling in the gaps in your day, just kind of making, again, this ties into the reducing friction and the mobility. That 5 to 10 minutes might be when you're out and about somewhere. It might be when you're at an airport waiting for a train. If you've got things ready to go and you're methodical and really clear about what you want to do in a session, then chances are you can achieve that in a very short space of time. So yeah, practice shorter sessions. Practice working in 5 to 10 minute bursts, maybe 15. It gets to the point now, if I have 45 minutes to work on a track, that is a luxury. And I feel that's like because I've kind of practiced doing these shorter sessions over time, 45 minutes is often more than enough to kind of get everything done that I want to, particularly with a track that's in progress. So if you want to have shorter sessions, learn your shortcuts, learn your DAW's shortcuts. They all have them, and there's probably a shortcut for everything you do. So if you're right clicking and searching for something, do the shortcut instead. The next time you notice yourself doing that, right clicking in a menu, see if there's a shortcut for it and practice using them. I've got my favorites, things I use all the time, like 0 for turning MIDI notes on and off, and the shift and the tab keys. I will try and use keyboard shortcuts for everything. My reasoning was that I could kind of make it feel like more like a musical instrument then, where I'm not taking my hands off of a keypad type thing, and that the seconds add up. And I've seen people speak about this before, but if you can learn your shortcuts and if you can get quick at using your DAW, it will save you time, and that will add up. A big part of my process, and just something I've kind of ingrained over time, is having a system for everything. And it doesn't need to be a big elaborate thing. It can be something quite simple. In fact, I've found that just making kind of small changes and seeing if they stick. The things that have really worked, having naming conventions for things. So every new track gets a reverse date, title, tempo, and any versions I work on within that, they get the date of the session. I create one for every single session I work on, regardless of whether I go back to it or not. For any presets I create, and I've spoken about this in previous videos, any presets, AW_. So systematize everything like that. Save presets, things that you constantly use and constantly recall all the time. If you're finding you're using it again and again, you're adjusting settings and doing something to create something you've already done, that could be saved as a preset. It can be systematized and automated, if you like, in that you've done the work. Again, you're saving seconds, you're saving 5-10 seconds, and these things will add up, particularly if you're dialing in certain things on EQs or compressors, or if you're using particular bass sound or something like that. Save a preset, use your initials, underscore, put something easy to search within Live's browser, and you're going to save yourself time recalling that rather than making it every time. So at the heart of like everything I do is my Dropbox. All of my music work sits in my Dropbox within a kind of file directory system. The main point of this is that you always want to have your files on hand. When I was really pushed for time and every session was going to have to just be working on things, then I would listen to things on my lunch hour. I would listen to tracks I wanted to work on, and I'd make lists of things that I wanted to do, because I knew I was going to get 10-15 minutes later in the day before I had to do the school run or something where I could make some progress. I could open up Ableton. I could quickly go through those points. Over time, you can get really quick at doing stuff like that, to the point where you can actually work on more than one track in half an hour, where you just go through these points and you export your work. But having a file sharing system where you can access your things anywhere and they're all organized and they're all the same wherever you go, it's really useful, particularly for checking mixes out as well. You might find yourself somewhere where there's a Bluetooth speaker, or you might have a chance to listen to something somewhere else. Then Dropbox or something like that, you can just quickly and easily use and listen back to the things you're working on. It's just invaluable. For works in progress, you want to test your mixes out, you want to listen back to them. The danger here is that you're going to over listen to them, so I would say be wary of that if you've always got it available. But definitely the batch working, if you've got time to listen back to some of your tracks and make notes on them for sessions later on in the day, then you know you can just fire it up and work through them. Again, if you're making notes, you want to be clear, really clear exactly on what needs to be done. The clearer the better, even if it kind of feels stupid writing it out in that much detail. Chances are when you come back to it later to work on it, you won't remember exactly. So my next point is about times of day to make music. I'm pretty religious in my music making practice. I come from an instrumental background and from playing guitar, and I used to practice every day. I was kind of obsessed with it for a time as a teenager, and that has stood me in good stead because the groove is well worn. I'm really used to practicing, and I like it. I like it because I've seen results I've achieved in practicing another instrument, and I know what's possible if you if you do it every day. You can achieve more than you think you can with small everyday practice. My favorite time of day to make music, and if you've watched any of my streams, then chances are you will have noticed the time of them. They're often first thing in the morning. It was such that in lockdown I was actually doing 5 a.m. starts to make music, which is a bit intense, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend it for everyone. For most people, it tends to be later on in the day. I know this from experience and from chatting to friends and students. Most of them, it's the last thing they do. But for me, I find the morning very creative. It's a time I am free of distraction, and I have time then. Not only do I have time, I have better time than the end of the day, where I'm often tired and I don't really want to make music. I'll be wanting to make music all day, and then I'll get to the end of the day and I'll just be too tired to do it. So putting music first by getting up early and making it the first thing I did, I just saw much better results from doing that. I find my mind's less cluttered and I'm able to make decisions quicker, so I can do more in less time. Again, all about the efficiencies, time saving. If the idea is abhorrent to you for getting up and doing music first thing and making making club tunes at 5 a.m. at the beginning of the day, I would say even if you can have a short session when you first get up, grab yourself a coffee. It's going to feel a bit weird when you first do it, but chances are over time you'll really see the benefits of doing something like that. If not necessarily getting up early before you start work, but just making it the first thing you do. So even if you got up 15 minutes earlier, and you had 15 minutes of music, it's a great way to start the day. Yeah, you can make a lot of progress if you do that every day. The main point is putting music first, so that regardless of what happens in the day, I've done my music session right at the beginning of the day when I had time to do it. So one time of day that you might have as well is if you are working full time, you might have a lunch hour where you might actually have a lot of time to make music then. Most people who work a full-time job are going to have a break at some point. And if you can have some way of making music on your lunch hour, that could be pretty good too. And I've done that. I did that for a long time. I was doing the mornings and I was doing my lunch hours for a long time. And then when I got home before I had to do the school run. So yeah, squeezing it all in. So of course, the immediate thing you might have thought of when you started watching this video was making music on your phone. Because again, that's something you can do on your commute, where there might be dead time where you can work on stuff like this. As a slight tangent, listening back to music and having making constructive feedback about your own music for yourself for a late session to work on is as much making music as actually sitting down and laying something out in the timeline is. It's part of the creative process to actually feed back on what you've been working on and really spend time reflecting on what you achieve. So if you don't have a way to make music on your phone when you're mobile, or don't necessarily enjoy the experience, making notes about tracks you're working on, saving yourself time and making the most of what would otherwise just be empty space, that can be really beneficial. So I touched on it with Dropbox, but having a system for organizing and tracking your progress, that is what saves me time all the time, is having a really good system for staying organized. Because that feeling when you're looking through your computer for bad beat number 5 or whatever, and looking for the right version, and you don't know which is which, and you're opening it up, oh, it's not this one, it's a different one. Like this, these are all things I've experienced as well, and I know that people struggle with this kind of. But like, look, when you're spending time kind of looking for the right version, when you don't have much time to do these things, and also not knowing where you are with particular tracks, forgetting you've made progress on them, forgetting what it sounded like, by having a system and like bouncing after every track, after every session you have on a track, that will save you so much time in the long run. I use Trello, but this is I found this so useful using it over time, if only for the Zap that I have set up with. I have a Zap with Zapier, so that whenever I export a track as a new track, it goes into a folder that is then picked up by Zapier. Zapier talks to Trello and creates a card, and it goes into my Trello board. So I've immediately got a note of the tracks. So whenever I move this, I can move this card about and put it in different columns as to where it's at in my creative process. It's that saves a huge amount of time. I don't have to create anything to kind of log it in the system. It gets logged automatically, and I'm still using that, and I've done hundreds and hundreds of tracks that way have gone into my board, and I've made progress with many of them thanks to that simple little Zap. And it's free. I just use the free version, and I use the free version of Trello as well. So the paid for version lets you upload the files, but I was finding it was getting quite unwieldy with that. The board was getting quite big, so I'm not doing that anymore. But I think I might pay for it again, because I would like to share it with my patrons. Talking of whom, thank you to everyone who supports the channel and gives a small amount each month to help me continue doing what I'm doing. You're all greatly appreciated, thank you. So having this Trello system, part of it is exporting. Every session ends with an export, with a bounce down. Whatever system you use, every session, if it ends with an export, there is a full stop. Whatever you do, I think some kind of system to stay organized, whether it's Trello, whether it's a list, whether it's an Excel spreadsheet, this will save you time. It can seem like, and for a while I was like, anything that wasn't making music and putting hours in the door was not going to be beneficial. But actually now it's the other way, that these kind of time-saving mechanisms, these efficiencies, they're kind of more important than ever to me, as my time is ever more at a premium. So to kind of wrap all this up, I think it all depends on what you want out of your music. You know, it might just be something you like losing hours in when you can. You know, making progress in these windows is kind of, you know, you're not even necessarily bothered about that. On the other end, you might really want to be making progress, releasing your music, sending it to people, looking to get a release with a label, and yet you've got full-time work commitments, you've got a family, you're in full-time education. You need to make progress because you really want to get your stuff out there. Or you might be in between, and it kind of might be a mix of the two. I hope you have fun making music, because otherwise it's a bit pointless, really. That's for another video, I think. Chances are that whatever you're doing, wherever you are in that scale of things, you are going to want to finish stuff. you're gonna want to finish stuff. And if you're having these kinds of islands of sessions here and there, or if you want to have sessions every day where you make progress, you're going to need to have some kind, these strategies are going to help you wherever you are at on that kind of sliding scale of time put in. This is just my experience. It's different for everyone. If there are any strategies, tips, tricks you've picked up from elsewhere, or things that you've found really helpful and you've employed that perhaps I haven't touched on that help you to make more music with less time, then please comment below and share it with everyone so that we can all improve, because I think this is all about helping one another. But yeah, I think the main takeaway is daily practice and get used to kind of shorter sessions if you can, and be ready to make music whenever you have the time, wherever you find it, wherever you are. If you set yourself up in that way, then little sessions, little and often, here and there, you will make progress if you stick to it. So I hope you've found something helpful in that. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. All my links are in the description, links to where you can hear my music, links to my live streams, links to YouTube playlists. If you've enjoyed this, let me know. There's also a link to my Patreon where there's lots of free Ableton stuff and session files on my tracks and things like that. But yeah, I hope you found this useful. It's been really good to hang out. Thanks for watching. I'll see you around.